January 8th, 2021. The determination has been made that an in-person meeting is not practical or prudent for this committee to meet in person. To ensure transparent and open meeting as possible, we will post the meeting materials approximately 1 week in advance. We'll provide a recording of this meeting linked to our website, and we'll take all votes by a roll call. At this time, I'd like to turn it to Stephanie for any additional announcements before we start with our agenda. Stephanie?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So this meeting is being recorded. Please use your full name in the GoToMeeting platform. You can edit your name by going to the top left corner of the screen and clicking GoToMeeting Edit Name. Please use the mute function when not speaking. This will help eliminate excess background noise. And those of you that may be on the phone, you can use *6 to mute and unmute yourself. Members of the public, if you have questions during the meeting, please use the chat box, which staff will be monitoring. Additionally, if you wish to address the committee during the agenda item public comment period, you can indicate your desire to do so in the chat box and we will call upon you. Members of the committee, when making a motion, please include your name so staff can properly record it. And that concludes my meeting announcements. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Stephanie. Next, on to agenda changes and announcements. Are there any agenda changes or further announcements? Thank you. Hearing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. If you could, please mute yourself if you're not speaking. That would be very helpful. Thank you. At this time, I'd like to combine the attendance roll call with the approval of the minutes. Can I get a motion and a second to approve the minutes of the November 18th meeting? And please state your name and say so moved.
This is Sherry.
This is Steph.
So moved.
Seconded by Diane Williams.
Very good. Thank you. We have a proper motion and a second. Are there any questions or comments from the committee members? If none, please call the roll.
Thank you. If the committee members could please unmute yourselves at this time, I'll call the roll. And please indicate your approval and present when I call your name. Chairman Reinbold?
Here.
Frank Beal?
Here and approve.
Mayor Broley? Diane Williams?
Present and approve.
Sherry Cohen?
Present and approve.
Jason Keller?
Present and approved.
Chris Snyder?
Present and approved.
Mark Van Kerkhoff?
Mark is not here. This is Nancy Furfer. I am taking his place at this time. So I am present, and since I was not here at the last one, I would like to abstain.
Thank you, Nancy. Sean Wydell?
Here and yes, approve.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The motion carries.
Very good. Thank you very much. Our next item is the fiscal year 2022 Unified Work Program. And at this time, I will turn it to Angela Manning, who will outline the fiscal year 2022 Unified Work Program, and will ask that the committee recommend approval to the board. Angela, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I want to make sure I wasn't on mute. Good morning, coordinating committee and President Reinbold. Thank you for allowing me a few minutes just to provide an overview of the FY22 UWP budget. The budget, this budget will also be presented today as part of a draft of the CMAP Annual Comprehensive Work Plan and Budget. So at the board meeting today, we will do a presentation on it as well. In accordance with an accelerated schedule approved by the UWP committee to meet IDOT submission timeline of April 1st of this year, CMAP issued a call for projects on November 2nd. The accelerated schedule due to I'm sorry, I need a little water here. Due to the accelerated UWP schedule and the pandemic's impact on local budgets and the request by federal and state partners to spend funds more efficiently and more move away from a 5-year agreement, the UWP committee voted to pause the competitive program this year and only conduct a core program. The competitive program will be evaluated over the remainder of the current fiscal year to develop a program that incorporates stronger performance measures and more efficient expenditures of resources. A new UWP competitive program will be introduced as we start the FY23 budget process. As I mentioned earlier, we're only doing core proposals this year, so we received 8. The 22 budget reflects efforts to ensure that CMAP remains operational and provides for the core transportation planning dollars for the City of Chicago, the Council of Mayors, McHenry County, and our transit partners. Federal funding is estimated to be $18.7 million, which is unchanged from fiscal year 21. And with the required match, the total UWP program is estimated to be $23.4 million. Core proposals submitted this year were $23.4 million, of which $18.7 million was for federal funds. We had a meeting on December 9th, the UWP committee, where there was a brief overview presented by each of the agencies to discuss the core programs and how the funding would be expended. On January 13th, the UWP committee approved federal funding for the core program. If you see in your memo, there's a list of what each agency was approved for and the increases to their budget. And then we also provided a little bit more detail on the Council of Mayors at the request of the committee. So today, I'm seeking the Coordinating Committee approval for the 22 budget. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you have at this time.
Thank you, Angela. Are there any questions for Angela? Thank you. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of the 2022 Unified Work Program for recommendation to the board. Please state your name.
Mr. Chair, I apologize. I was trying to unmute and I couldn't quite do that fast enough.
Oh,
Angela,
please, Diane.
That's okay. Angela, I'm just curious about sort of some of the changes in the dollars, particularly as we look at the federal dollars went from, I mean, we got a nice increase there, but we're looking at a decrease in the following year. We have, when we think about the foundations and non-public agencies, we're also anticipating significant decreases. I'm just hoping to understand that a little better.
So this year, the increases were pretty significant. They were anywhere from 4% to 59%, depending on the requests of the various agencies. But this is what we call an anomaly year. And simply this occurred because we didn't have a competitive program. So what would normally happen is there would be anywhere in excess of $500,000 we would dedicate to the competitive program. This year, since we eliminated the competitive program, but we still had the money available, we decided to reallocate that to the core programs for the reasons I listed, previously. With the impact of COVID, we realized that our transit partners and the municipal partners and the counties probably needed that money more this year for their core operating activities. And so it really was just a matter of, addressing that concern and also using this opportunity to look at the competitive program. But this is truly an anomaly. So those increases you see are for this fiscal year only.
Okay.
We are looking to revamp the competitive program. And your point is well taken, with projections that the federal funding for core programming may be on the decline. We will definitely have those discussions with the fiscal 23 budget year as we see what those numbers are.
You're on mute, Diane.
Thank you. I know I keep trying to unmute and it's moving around. Technology is not my friend.
Me as well. Thank you. Okay, Diane, thank you for that question. And Angela, thank you. Could those members that had made the motion and the second, please restate?
Sure. This is Sean Wydell making a motion to approve.
Thank you, Sean. And the second?
Second,
Mr.
Snyder, DuPage County.
Thank you, Mr. Snyder. We have a first and a second. Is there any further discussion? Roll call, please.
If the committee members could unmute themselves at this time, I will call out your name and please indicate yay or nay to the motion. Chairman Reinbold?
Aye.
Frank Beal?
Aye.
Mayor Burley? Is
Yay.
Yet? Okay, good. Diane Williams,
Aye.
Sherry Cohen,
Aye.
Jason Keller,
Aye.
Chris Snyder,
Aye.
Nancy Furfer, and Sean Wydell.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you. Our next item is the mobility recovery. Laura Wilkinson has joined us today and will present on CMAP's mobility recovery efforts. Ms. Wilkinson, the floor is yours.
Thank you for allowing me the time to provide some information and insight on the exciting new initiative CMAP has begun. We look forward to hearing your feedback and insights on this work today. As you all know, our transportation system is the backbone of our region. Our multimodal network does more than allow for a daily commute. It keeps America's supply chain running, and it can be an economic ladder of opportunity if it connects people to good jobs. Our region's economy is interconnected through our transportation system. Prior to the stay-at-home orders, most workers in the Chicago region commuted across county boundaries every day, knitting our communities together into a metropolitan economy. Our county board chairs and the City of Chicago's COVID-19 Recovery Task Force recognize that our transportation system level challenges must be addressed at a regional scale and have asked CMAP to coordinate these efforts. To understand our current challenges, CMAP has been actively monitoring and reporting on the travel trends of our region since March, which has led to numerous questions and concerns that necessitate that we develop a strategy and action plan. We know that passenger vehicle trips, shown here in blue, were down more than 40% in April, but as of this fall had almost recovered to March levels. In contrast, we have already seen truck traffic surpass where it was in 2019. We will need to address anticipated congestion on our roadways in this work. Also know that the pandemic did not improve the safety of our streets. By the end of 2020, the state of Illinois had over 100 more fatalities than 2019, rising over 1,000 in total. This chart demonstrates the rise in bike and pedestrian crashes in Chicago alone in 2020. Transit sustainability is an obvious concern for all of us. While we've seen a rebound in auto trips, system-wide transit ridership remains close to 75% below 2019. Our agency partners are working to both combat the day-to-day challenges of operating during pandemic, as well as trying to plan for the period of recovery that will follow. The funding and sustainability of the system is of critical importance to all of us. We can't continue to address our mobility systems as business as usual or assume that trends and patterns will go back to where they were in 2019. Even before the COVID crisis, our region faced significant challenges to fully funding the transportation system and ensuring equitable access. The pandemic has put many of these issues under a microscope. CMAP has brought on a consultant team to work with us to help the region understand the impacts of the crisis and put forward an actionable plan to keep the region on track towards meeting the goals of ON2 2050. The work will look specifically at ways to mitigate a likely rebound in congestion, sustain the transit system beyond the recovery phase, and increase the overall resilience of the region's multimodal transportation system. We'd like to tell you more specifically about what this initiative will entail. The main deliverables will utilize information on national and international mobility system solutions that are potentially applicable to the Chicago context. It will characterize COVID-related changes in employment, real estate markets, and travel preferences, bringing needed insight into land use and behavioral changes that occurred since and potentially after COVID. This research will inform CMAP modeling of regional travel in the short and medium term. Modeled results will then be used to characterize possible travel demand management strategies, which will then be matched to the most appropriate markets in our region. We anticipate this work to be dynamic and iterative in order to assist our partners, implementers, and decision makers in having information they need in the short and long term to address mobility issues. The final deliverable will gather these findings and culminate in an immediate and implementable action plan that outlines how the region can continue to advance the shared goals of ONTO 2050 in light of the current challenges. It will also align with the timing of our 2050 update in fall 2022, ensuring that we're moving ultimately towards a stronger 2060 plan. The backbone of these efforts will be a steering committee that will provide our team ongoing feedback and will be comprised of representatives of the MPO Policy Committee members, civic and community organizations, as well as the business community. We'll be reaching out to our partners to convene this group in the coming weeks. To help us be successful in this work, we are pleased to have selected AECOM Technical Services, who have partnered with Transmart EJM and the Center for Neighborhood Technology to undertake this project. The AECOM team brings a wealth of national experience working on the development of travel demand strategies in different regions, as well as a suite of recent work related to COVID impacts on transportation networks in major metropolitan cities. This includes scenario planning analysis for New Jersey Transit and Northern Virginia Transportation Authority, as well as a return to work plan for SEPTA in Philadelphia. The team has also recently completed work on multimodal mobility planning, such as the Colorado Smart Mobility Plan and CT rides with the Connecticut Department of Transportation. Transmart EJM will contribute as a subconsultant to the policy and strategy development, and C&T has been brought onto the team to bring voices to the table that have not historically been included in government decision-making, continuing CMAP's commitment to equity and transportation planning. The CMAP staff working on this project are cross-divisional and will be led by our principal, Elizabeth Scott, and project manager, Stephanie Levine. We are excited to initiate this project and know it will be a resource for our implementing partners and for our region as a whole to address our mobility concerns now and post-COVID. We know that our work will ultimately impact air quality, access to jobs, and opportunity growth in our region. We look forward to getting your input today and support as the work continues. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Laura. We appreciate that. At this time, staff is seeking committee members' input on specifically what are your agencies or your community's mobility concerns? For example, is it congestion? Is it transit service sustainability? Are you having issues with increased commercial deliveries in your community or your area? At this time, I'd like to open the floor for a discussion on these topics. The floor is open.
Mr. Chairman, Jason Keller here with a question.
Jason, please.
Thanks so much for that overview. I guess I would just ask what CMAP's linkage is or how AECOM will be partnering with the city on its recent transit-oriented development initiative that ended in 2020. I know they're supposed to post the results of their study in early 2021. And then Elevated Chicago, obviously, with their work on transit-oriented development, might have some lessons learned as they've been in this for some time. So my question would be, is there ways to leverage some of those efforts already? And if there are ways to bring some of that work into the CMAP study from a regional perspective?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we want to definitely make sure that we have synergies with a lot of the partners that are doing work and leveraging work that's already done. We're not starting from scratch. I think the other piece to this is that, we're starting where, we left off with 2050. We're not restarting the wheel here, and we're really building to what are the pieces that in the 2050 plan we might need to pivot because of the pandemic. I will also say, partners like Elevated are actually on our steering committee, so we would definitely want to weave in the work that they're doing. So we're having, making sure that they're at the table. But I don't know if there's anything that my other partners from CMAP want to add to that. But I definitely think we're going to be starting with the work that's already there, and then just making sure that we look at what we need to either pivot or change, or maybe accelerate because of the pandemic, that maybe was something we thought was far in the future that now we need to be, again, accelerating to make sure that we're addressing it now.
Very good. Further, Diane.
thank you for the presentation, always of interest to those of us who sit out in the burbs and try to figure some of this stuff out too. In response to the chair's question, so I have sort of two thoughts around what our community is experiencing. And I know that Mr. Chair knows this as well or better than I do. And so one of those things is we have a huge increase in the number of logistics and distribution centers that are cropping up in the south suburbs. And so while we may not feel that congestion yet, we are certainly concerned about what that congestion will ultimately look like. And the only reason that we probably aren't feeling it in full force yet is because those facilities aren't complete and fully operational at this time. But we know there have been a number of Amazon locations that have come up. There is another one, I forget the name of it, Rick, you may remember, that's like that's over by Country Club Hills, to the west side of Country Club Hills. There is, and there, as we know, where Homewood and Hazel Crest come together, what is now still the remnants of a golf course is expected to also turn into some sort of a trucking center. So there are those kinds of facilities with lots of trucks and those kinds of things coming into our community with an expected, sort of quick acceleration in the numbers. So that's a concern, I think, for us. I am also, I'm sorry.
I was going to say, Diane, that's an excellent point. Thank you for making it. That is going to impact the region.
The other thing I would say is, from a slightly different angle, one of the things that attracts people to live in our communities in the south suburbs is the easy transportation to and from the city, whether it be to the University of Chicago, to the downtown area, or to other places along that metro route. And so I know that we have a pilot underway from an equity perspective to make it more attractive to ride the trains and for people who might not otherwise be able to do that financially. But I'm really sort of wondering what that overall look is gonna be for ensuring that those transportation routes between the city and the south suburb are convenient, are frequent enough, and all of the other kinds of things that we need to have to make our communities, allow our communities to continue to be attractive to people who work in the city. And those are my 2 points.
Very good. Thank you. So noted. Diane, you mentioned the county's fair transit program. That's a 3-year pilot program that's reduced fares on Metra, the Rock Island, and there's also some coordination through PACE. That's going to significantly impact the ability for a lot of our residents to use public transportation and even to introduce individuals that perhaps are not using it now. It's so much more affordable with the 50% reduction that I think that's going to have a positive impact. But thank you. Further comments or questions?
This is Frank Beal. I have a question about I'm not sure I understand the schedule for this, and when are we expecting results?
Yeah, so Frank, how I've been explaining is that I really want this to be a dynamic and iterative process. So we're not going to be doing work and looking at things from now until October of 22, and then a report comes out. We really are going to be focused, at first on some policy direction and financial sustainability. I want those to be usable right away. So we're not going to come up with ideas that we're not going to be able to implement or be looking at or working with our partners until October of 22. The contract that we have will go until October of 22 because a lot of the travel demand and modeling that are going to come out of it need to be pieces that go into the 2050 update. So the end of the project will actually be in 22 as it goes into 2050, but really the pieces that we're going to be looking at are going to be are iterative, and we're going to be able to use them as we go along. Again, like I said, specifically the policy, financials, some of the different travel characteristics. Again, like Diane Williams was saying, we want to look at how's trucking changing, what's happening with e-commerce as these things are moving along. So again, it ends in 22, but I really want it to be something that we're utilizing from now until then.
Well, thank you. That gives me great comfort. I was worried about 2022. because we're in a period that's, as you've pointed out, highly dynamic period for providers of transportation. Uncertainty as to what the demand is going to look like, whether transit will recover, and so on. And they need help now, not in 2022, or not for a 2050 plan or 60 plan. And the extent to which we can provide guidance on the smartest, most resilient investments quickly, I think is really important. So I appreciate your response.
Laura, I have a question a little bit on the kind of the overlap with this work and the safety committee that CMAP just started, that Vicki is organizing. I'm just kind of wondering, obviously, you know, as you showed some of the graphs, the traffic volumes are actually at 70%, et cetera. Speeds are up, even though the traffic volume is low. That's actually leading to more speeding, certainly in the Chicago, and I'm guessing in the suburbs as well, leading to safety issues. And we've seen mostly bicyclists and pedestrian fatalities and serious injuries are fairly stable across past years, but we've actually seen significant increases in driver fatalities because of that, or at least in part because of that. So I'm wondering how this will interface with the safety conversation as well.
Yeah, that's a good point to pull out, Sean. And I think that, you know, here at CMAP, we like to think about everything comprehensively, right? So there's a lot of things that overlap and connect into each other. And you know, Vicki and I definitely understand that these two things are linked, and that we look at one of the goals of this plan is how do we increase mobility? How do we help non-single occupancy vehicle movement? That isn't, you know, we're supporting, you know, walking and pedestrian, and how does that interface with the, like you said, the increase in fatalities or serious injuries that we're seeing. So I definitely think there's a lot of connection between the work that Vicki's doing and that we're doing, and it's especially again in that bike ped area that we're creating solutions and mitigating for the safety issues at the same time. So I do think there'll be crossover between the two of them.
Okay, thanks, Laura.
Thank you. Laura, you mentioned walkability. When we look at community mobility, do we include the importance and the need for walkable communities, bike paths, those type of things? Because both of those, for example, link to public transit and access to public transit.
Absolutely. We have a specific task that really is focused in on this space while we look at this. I think again, looking through the lens of how the pandemic changed things too, you did see people walking more in their community, biking more in their community. Yes. So, you know, we want to be able to look at the trends of what we've seen in the changes, and then be able to provide opportunities to strengthen those different modes of transportation, whether it's on foot or in a car.
Very good. Thank you. Further comments and questions for Laura?
This is Chris. A question, and correct me if I'm wrong, is there a companion parallel effort being undertaken by the service boards, RTA, in this area, a return to transit initiative, and through the steering committee? Will those be linked, or am I misremembering?
No, Chris, so you're right that we're working very closely with the RTA, and I'm not sure if someone from the RTA is on the call right now, but we're working very closely with them. Again, they kind of have their 3-step plan of how they're working to, again, bring people back to transit, look at their different funding, and then look at their strategic plan. The timing should work out very well in their kind of 3rd phase. So as we start discussing opportunities here, that those two plans can be linked, that they'll be complementary to each other. So we're working, again, closely with them so that any information that comes out of this is really helpful and feeds into the work that they need to do. And similarly, if there's decisions that they're making. So they really should be seamless between the work that the RTA needs to do in their 3-step plan, and then the work that we're doing. But as to Frank's point, some of this policy direction is to really provide some more immediate direction, regional direction of how we can be supportive of transit. That's going to have to be some near-term solutions. I hope that helped. Did that answer?
Yeah, that was, and just to maybe piggyback on what Diane said, and what we've seen in DuPage is very similar to what she's seen in the south suburbs, and that is the tremendous increase in logistics and distribution and warehousing, and so to the which I expect is changing mobility patterns in each of our counties and areas, and so hopefully this will begin to look at that shift in those types of facilities and how they can be accommodated through perhaps transit facilities and things like that, rather than just people in their cars driving to their job.
Yeah, I definitely think we're going to have to look at, again, I think it's on all of our minds, right, is real estate concerns, travel preferences, how employment and centers and how those are changing. So that's definitely an element that we need to be viewing this whole work through.
Very good, Chris. Thanks for your comment and questions. And Laura, also thank you for your response. Before we move on to our next topic, is there anything else from the committee? Very good. Okay. Thank you, Laura. We appreciate that. Our next item is the safety planning and capacity building assistance. At this time, staff will present an overview of the 2021 call for projects and summarize recent activities of the ESP supported by the MacArthur Foundation. And at least initially, I will turn this to Leslie. I'm sorry, Stephanie.
Actually, I think Lily's going to just take this. So if we wanted to just advance to the next slide. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Very good. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Lily Nepple, and I'm an assistant planner with CMAP and the project manager for the 2021 Call for Planning Assistance. This year, CMAP has coordinated with the Regional Transportation Authority, RTA, to host a small call for communities to apply for technical assistance offerings. I will be providing a general overview of this year's call and the types of assistance that we are offering. This year's call for planning assistance is different from the annual call for projects in previous years in that it's a more targeted effort for communities to apply for a limited selection of technical assistance offerings. This effort was initiated in response to the regional impacts of COVID-19 and will be closely tied to CMAP's existing embedded staff planner program, which provides support to capacity-constrained communities to help advance local planning initiatives. Any local government is eligible to apply for the call for planning assistance, but this year, CMAP and the RTA are prioritizing awards based on community need. We're using CMAP's community cohort evaluation tool to prioritize communities that have lower incomes, smaller tax bases, or smaller population sizes. CMAP is offering 6 types of technical assistance, which will primarily focus on local government capacity building and implementation of previously completed plans. These include capital improvement programming, where CMAP will help local governments develop a successful capital improvement program, and safety planning, where CMAP will help local governments address safety challenges in their communities. CMAP's other 3 offerings are part of the Embedded Staff Planner program, including the NEXT program, where we will help communities take the next steps in implementing existing LTA plans. Resource Opportunity Impact, where CMAP will help local governments prepare for grant opportunities. And the Consortium on Public Space Innovations, where CMAP will help communities address the shared challenges around the creative use of public space in response to COVID-19. The RTA is offering 3 types of technical assistance, including active mobility and curb management plans, developing special funding districts, and zoning code updates in transit served and in transit-oriented development areas. Jointly, CMAP and the RTA will offer developer discussion panels, which will help local governments address local economic development challenges, strengthen developer connections, and solicit guidance on ways to attract investment. Next, we will go into further detail about each of the types of technical assistance that CMAP is offering through the 2021 Call for Planning Assistance.
Hi, my name is Jamie Jackson, and I'm a senior planner here at CMAP. I'll be providing an overview of the capital improvement programming. The capital improvement programming is part technical assistance, part capacity building. The program is designed for communities that do not have a capital improvement plan or do not have an up-to-date capital improvement plan. Communities will develop a framework for a capital improvement plan and will learn about best practices in process, project grant readiness, and the use of performance measures in capital planning. Through capital improvement programming, communities will identify capital projects and deepen their understanding of capital project planning best practices in order to have the tools to develop a capital improvement plan. This includes providing information and resources of not only how a community identifies projects, but also prioritizes, budgets, and implements those projects. The program includes capital project development, which involves writing project descriptions, cost estimating, scheduling, and applying performance measures. In addition, the program includes best practices for capital project funding. This consists of how a community programs capital projects in municipal budgets and how to position projects to qualify for and appeal to local, state, and federal agency requirements. Finally, the municipality will be an active participant in the program through hands-on training workshops. Training will cover the topics of fiscal analysis, municipal budgeting, project evaluation criteria development and application, and other capital improvement planning best practices.
Hi, my name is Vicki Jacobson, and I'm a transportation planner here at CMAP. I'm going to provide some information today about our safety planning work. Safety planning takes a comprehensive approach towards improving traffic safety for all modes of travel. The safety planning program is designed for communities that have identified localized safety issues or dangerous locations and require assistance in addressing the issues through appropriate design and operational solutions. Communities will benefit from deliverables such as safety action plans and preliminary designs with recommended countermeasures to improve safety and therefore mobility for all travelers, regardless of age, ability, income, or mode of travel. Through safety planning projects, communities can address corridors, crossings, and intersections with higher crash rates or a perception of traffic risks based on community or police-reported issues. Using existing data sources, public input, and best practices, communities will receive recommendations for design improvements and other operational aspects, such as signalization, lighting, and pavement markings. Design recommendations and action plans will provide specific guidance on bicycle and pedestrian safety, modes that are particularly vulnerable to unsafe conditions. Communities may also seek assistance for safety issues related to at-grade rail crossings, intersections that are prone to flooding, and locations that do not comply with the Americans with Disabilities Act. The safety planning process will position communities for funding opportunities to make the recommended safety improvements a reality.
Hi, I'm Tony Mano, a senior planner in the planning division of CMAP. I'm excited to describe a very valuable service we are able to provide the region through a partnership with the Chicago District Council of the Urban Land Institute, also known as ULI Chicago. ULI is a membership-based, nonprofit, global real estate research and education firm focusing on providing leadership for the responsible use of land and in creating and sustaining thriving communities worldwide. Their local membership base consists of a wide range of development expertise, and our longstanding partnership with the organization allows us to bring realistic development guidance to communities throughout the region. I should also mention that both CMAP and RTA are offering this service through separate contracts with ULI. RTA focuses on transit-served locations, and CMAP is able to focus on areas served and areas not served by transit. CMAP works with ULI to convene developer discussion panels or dialogues for a community or group of communities to address planning challenges, share development expertise, provide advice and guidance on ways to attract investment to a specific area of a community, and or to discuss what types of development may be appropriate and market feasible. These panels consist of multiple development experts who volunteer their time and energy in the spirit of providing guidance to communities who seek it. These discussions often result in recommendations focused on ways to prioritize projects, identify development opportunities, and explore incentives and local partnerships that can help spur development. We have enjoyed this great partnership with ULI for many years and look forward to connecting additional community partners to their knowledge and expertise.
I am Michael Brown, Planning Principal and Program Manager of the Embedded Staff Planner Program supported by the MacArthur Foundation. These three offerings reflect recent adjustments to the local capacity building suite of services initiated in 2018. In all, there are 4 programs under the local capacity building set of services with a simple mission to educate, equip, and empower local governments to resolve increasingly complex issues facing their communities. The coordinated investment studies facilitated discussion between interested local governments to find opportunities to save costs through collaboration on public infrastructure and services. This work was initiated and performed through the McHenry Coordinated Investment Study, which concluded last year with recommendations streamlining intergovernmental cooperation and the hiring of a coordinator to implement key recommendations. The Enhanced Local Technical Assistance is an internal guide to enhance CMAP's Technical Assistance Program to provide targeted capacity building recommendations and activities catering to the local needs of each local plan. We believe we can leverage the local plans to provide the groundwork for other capacity building services through intentional actions. The Capacity Building Guide will be completed this summer. Leadership Academy expands on CMAP's existing training activities by assessing the existing offerings of professional development and determining the training needed to advance plan implementation of the OWN to 2050 plan. This program seeks to fill the gap with targeted trainings, including networking and skill building for elected officials, staff, and citizen commission on specific topics. Recommendations to fill programming gaps will be made available later this year. And lastly, the signature program of the Capacity Building Suite and the focus of this conversation, the Embedded Staff Planners Program, where CMAP staff are placed in capacity-constrained communities to provide support and advance local planning initiatives. Letters in our first round of embedded staff planning communities of Calumet Park and South Village have been successful in coordinating grants and technical assistance projects, assessing and adopting effective and efficient policies and procedures, and engaging new partners to help these communities develop new approaches to targeted issues and launch new initiatives. The work in these communities will conclude in the spring of this year, and we look forward to bringing a full report of challenges and successes encountered. But it was this time last year that the Embedded Staff Planning Team was preparing to initiate round 2 of Embedded Staff Planning Communities just before the pandemic hit. As a result, the Embedded Staff Planning Team designed the following programs. The 3 new programs are based upon 10 years of local technical assistance experience, 2 years of lessons learned from the initial demonstration program, as well as insights gained through CMAP's local government network around emerging issues related to pandemic response and recovery. Launching this past fall, the program have already reached key milestones in program development and execution. In the following slides, we will provide brief updates on each.
Hi, my name is Dominic Argumedo, Senior Planner with CMAP and Project Manager for NEXT, Putting Plans into Action. CMAP is excited as the program continues on the work of the Embedded Staff Planner Program in Phase 1. Again, due to the pandemic's impacts for CMAP personnel to be on site in communities and ability to focus on general planning efforts, CMAP staff will instead assist communities with implementing specific approved community plans. As with in Phase 1, communities often are limited in their available resources to move plans from the page into their community. Through August of 2021, CMAP staff will assist partner communities to work both implementing recommendations such as code updates and grant applications, and also to build overall capacity of next partners to keep such implementation momentum going. In the case of the Land Bank Authority, this focus will be on funding for future dedicated staff and standardized data collection. We look forward to assisting communities turn their vision and effort into reality. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Maggie Jar, and I'm a senior planner at CMAP. I'll be providing an update on the Resource, Opportunity, and Impact ROI program. Under the 6-month pilot program, CMAP staff is assisting 3 municipalities to prioritize transportation projects, strategize how to get them funded, and navigate transportation investment programs. We established partnerships with the City of Harvey, Village of University Park, and Village of Dalton in December of 2020, and are currently working with their staff and officials to develop transportation project lists and grant inventories. Next, CMAP staff will develop custom implementation strategies to support priority projects in each of these communities, and then assist local staff in taking the next steps and build their capacity to apply for and manage funding. Additional grant-related activities may include researching and identifying potential fund sources, establishing internal procedures for grant seeking and grant management, staff trainings, coordinating work on select grant and technical assistance projects, or helping to prepare applications for funding priority transportation projects.
This is Julie Burrows. I'm a senior planner with CMAP and the project manager for the Consortium on Public Space Innovations. For this project, we're taking a collaborative approach to capacity building. A small group of communities will work together on how they can adapt public spaces in innovative ways that promotes community vitality while maintaining safe social distancing. This past year, inspired by the pandemic, some communities took an innovative approach to the use of their public spaces, like closing streets to allow for outdoor dining. Out of necessity, they took a risk and tried things that their regulations would never allow, and now they'd like to hold on to the vitality and vibrancy it's brought to their business districts. Inspired by these successes, we know that other communities would like to try a public space innovation project and need assistance and support to do so. We think that by working together, we can not only help communities to try new things, but can help to design their pilot projects so that the innovative can become the norm. We're aiming for 3 main outcomes: help communities institutionalize successful public space innovations and make it easier to do even more in the future; help communities, especially those who face the most challenges from COVID-19, to launch a public space innovation pilot project; and finally, we'll create a few common project typologies with practical how-tos so that others can replicate successful projects and avoid common challenges. During this very challenging time, we would like to take advantage of the opportunity to try new things, keep the best of what worked, and help communities to thrive.
This is Michael again. So we have initiated the first round of NEXT and ROI under the MacArthur Foundation grant with the listed communities. The 2021 call for projects will help us to identify communities for the next round. And as Julie mentioned, the call for projects will be utilized to form this cohort of municipalities focused on public space innovation. Future projects under the Capacity Building Consortium will focus on a variety of topics, including municipal finance, which is currently being explored in partnership with our policy team. And thus, the 3 new programs of the Embedded Staff Planner Demonstration Project will round out the 6 CMAP offerings in this 2021 call for projects. I'll turn it back over to Lily for further details and closing of the presentation.
The 2021 Call for Planning Assistance opened on January 20th, and applications are due on February 3rd. During this call, applicants will complete a brief form that's linked on CMAP and the RTA's websites. CMAP and the RTA will review applications during February and March and respond to any questions that applicants may have. Successful applicants will be notified in April, and most projects are expected to begin within 6 months of notification. This concludes our presentation for the 2021 Call for Planning Assistance. If you would like additional information, please visit our webpage. Thank you so much for your attention. We'll now take any questions that you might have.
Thank you. Before I open it for questions or comments, Stephanie, I'd like to ask, if we don't have a document, could we create a document that lists all of these opportunities? I think there's some genuine opportunity out here, but if we had a very brief list of what the different opportunities are, and with a brief description and perhaps who the staff contact person is, it would make it kind of a one-stop shopping for municipalities that are seeking assistance.
Absolutely, that's a great idea, Mr. Chairman. So we have been working with the RTA to put together those types of resources, but I think that's a great idea just to have a real short, brief list. And I think the group's going to be open for questions, but also I think since we have at this time gotten some applications, I think they're also going to share with the group sort of what we've received. But part of us sharing this today is to get everyone's feedback. This was a direct response to some of the conversations we had with the committee, if you remember back in November, about what kind of COVID need our community is going to have right now. And so this is a response to that. So in addition to providing that information so you can share that with your communities, we'd love to know, are these kind of programs in line with the need? And I think on the next slide, our questions sort of get to some of that, but also just happy to answer any other questions that the group may have.
Thank you, Stephanie. At this time, I'd like to open it to questions or comments from our members.
This is Chris. I think I mentioned this at our last committee meeting that depending on the selected applications, I can't offer other counties, but I know that the counties, have been engaged in things like this and could provide, both I think staff expertise to assist in any way, but also, recognize that counties are a fund source as well. I know my days when I worked for Cook County, we worked very closely with several of the communities that have been mentioned today, and reminding them that they can ask us when I was at Cook County to do a project in their community, that they can come to us. And so, from the DuPage perspective, in my role, continue that, and hopefully our county partners would feel the same way.
Good point. Thank you. I think that the challenge that some communities have, especially the cohort 4 communities, is staffing within the organization that would even have the opportunity to apply. That in some communities that's a genuine challenge, and I think that's where the embedded staff planning program has been so successful in opening those opportunities. Thank you. Okay, further comments or questions? Great. It was a very good presentation. We'll move then to our next topic, if there's no further questions, which is committee updates and discussion. There is a link to the committee updates on our webpage containing a summary of all of the CMAP's committee activities. This was previously distributed to all committee members via email. And at this time, I'd like to see if there are any questions in regards to those emails that were sent out. Okay, thank you. Hearing none, is there any, under new business, is there any new business to come before the committee? Okay.
If I could, the presentation on the mobility recovery, is that something that could be distributed to the group? I think there's a lot of good information in that, and selfishly, I do know my chairman has been asked to be on the steering committee, so that means I'm on the steering committee through his role, and I think providing him a brief of that information would be a good. that would be good for me to have.
If I could tag on, I think I'd also like to have the last presentation to be able to share with our community.
Yes, absolutely. We'll make sure that we have external links to both of those presentations and share those with the committee.
Very good. Thank you. Is there anything else? Thank you. We'll now move to public comment. At this time, staff will read any comments received prior to today's meeting and recognize any of those speakers that may be in the chat box. Stephanie?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a reminder, if attendees wish to address the committee, please indicate so in the chat box and you will be called upon. Mr. Chair, staff did not receive any comments prior to today's meeting. And we have not received any requests in the chat box to address the committee. So at this time, I would ask if anyone who is joining us by phone wishes to make any comments. And hearing none, Mr. Chair, it appears there are no individuals wishing to address the committee at this time.
Very good. Thank you. We will then close public comment. And I will state that the next coordinating committee will meet next on April 14th at 8 a.m. Just a reminder that our meetings are on the second Wednesday, and those meetings will be in April, June, September, and November, also at 8 a.m. And if there is nothing else, I'd like to, at this opportunity, or at this time, present the opportunity for any committee members to make any comment before we adjourn. Okay, thank you. Thank you all for your participation today. We appreciate it. I know this is an early meeting, so definitely appreciate you joining us today. And as there is no other business to come before the committee, I will adjourn our meeting. And again, thank you all for your attendance. Have a great day.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye.